learn from those and try to make the best out of this individual singular moment and this singular pitch, right? So they'll make those adjustments pitch to pitch. As I said, they perceive each pitch as a new event or opportunity, and they finish the season 330 or better. Ask yourselves, right? Am I an unstoppable hitter? If you are, and you are capable of executing that mentality and thinking pitch to pitch, great. Stay that way. Be contagious to your teammates. Edify that mentality, right? If you're a great hitter or an average hitter, find ways to move up that rank right there. Find ways to change your mentality. We're going to give you guys an education here. They're going to help you guys be more successful for that. If you were at the baseball positional last week where we worked on live ABs, you heard a version of this speech, and I'm going to expand upon it right now. Okay? Here's how we're going to help you guys be unstoppable hitters. All right? We're going to try to educate you guys more about pitch location. We talked about in the pitching presentation that pitch location is the most important thing versus pitch sequencing, right? So the biggest thing I want you guys to know and understand is the education that you got about pitching approach is tale as old as time. It's not unique to us. It's not new to us. It's coaches from the beginning of baseball have talked about the idea of getting ahead in the count, right? Our job right now is to, before lunch, was to make you guys better pitchers and get you guys an understanding of that piece of the chess match. But now our job is to figure out how we can combat that, because everybody else that you're going to play against this year is being told, hey, get ahead in the count. We can't fall behind. Everybody knows that. So how can we maximize our success knowing that that's how pitchers are going to approach us, right? Best way to do that is to learn your zone hitting approach. Okay? Zone hitting approach is how we want you guys to think when it comes to making swing decisions when you guys come up to the plate. Okay? For those that don't know, home plate is 17 inches across from the inside portion of the plate to the outside portion of the plate. Right? And we need to be able to, we train as hitters to be able to hit all locations of the plate. Albert Pujols, in my opinion, is the greatest hitter of all time when it comes to plate coverage. Being able to hit the inside part of the plate at some sort of success rate all the way to the outside portion of the plate. But even Albert Pujols has portions of the plate that he doesn't hit as well as other portions of the plate. Meaning that Albert Pujols, he was a phenomenal outside corner hitter. Same thing as an inside corner hitter. But I think Albert Pujols over his career, his batting average on outer half pitches was probably about 70 points higher than his batting average on pitches in the inner half of the plate. Okay? So he needed to learn the idea of being selectively aggressive, and so do you guys. You guys need to know at this point, or work on learning at this point, what portions of the plate you hit well and what portions of the plate you hit poorly. There's nothing wrong with having portions of the plate you hit poorly. We want to try to figure out why you do and work on those things. But the biggest piece of information is knowing what you're good at versus what you're not. And the way that we do that is through our zone hitting approach. Again, 17 inches across, or 6 baseballs exactly. If you lay a baseball from the inside corner and line them up all the way to the outside corner, you're going to get 6 baseballs. So we've split the plate here into 6 zones. And here's the idea behind that, right? If it's a 2-0 count, and you are somebody that's right-handed, and you hit balls well if they cross zones 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you don't hit balls well that hit zones 5 and 6. Your job is to know that, and to understand your weakness, and if they throw a fastball on the outside corner of the plate at 2-0, you need to have the discipline to take that pitch, right? Because you need to understand that if I swing at this pitch, yes, sometimes I can get a hit, but the vast majority of the time, I'm probably going to get weak contact and I'm going to get myself out. If you know that, you can take that pitch, and they can call that a strike. And if they call that a strike, we go from a 2-0 count to a 2-1 count. We're still in really good shape. But the worst thing that you can do in a 2-0 count, or any other hitter's count for that matter, is swing at a pitch that you don't hit well, create weak contact, get yourself out, and help the pitcher out. We talked about, as pitchers, how we want to limit pitch count, how we want to try to get early count, weak contact. We as hitters need to combat that. And the best way to do that is to know your strengths and know your weaknesses. Okay? And here's why. How many people here at some point last year, while hitting, got themselves out because they swung at a pitch they shouldn't have? They shouldn't. Everybody should be raising your hand unless you're a do that. Okay? Right? Because I bet everybody here at some point did that. If you didn't do that, you're going to be in Cooperstown a little bit. Right? We need to limit that as much as we can. Right? The best way to do that is to have a hitting approach. So let's say for even numbers, you batted 100 times last year, you batted with a batting average of 300. For all of you that batted with a batting average of 300 said you got yourself out because you swung at a pitch you shouldn't have. If you would have had a better approach while you're up there, right? Like understanding your hitters counts, zones, and swinging at pitches that you should and avoiding ones that you shouldn't, right? You're gonna have a much higher success rate as far as hitting balls hard. How easy would baseball be instead of it being 17 inches across with 1 through 6? How easy would baseball be if the plate was only 1 through 4, right? And it was 13 inches across. It'd be a lot easier as a hitter, right? Way harder as a pitcher, right? Baseball's way harder as a hitter if we swing at balls in the other batter's box, isn't it? Right? So we need to understand what we do well, find those hot zones, swing at pitches that are there, try to maximize damage, right? We avoid the zones that we hit poorly until we absolutely have to swing at those zones, and then it would be with 2 strikes, right? And here's how that's going to help you. If you execute that well, hit balls harder on a regular basis, you're going to find more base hits, right? And let's say you batted 100 times last year, and out of the 70 times that you got out, you got yourself out 20, 25 times because you swung at pitches you shouldn't have. You might, if you have in those 25 at-bats have a better approach, you might find ways to squeak out 10 more hits because you had a better approach and you hit balls harder. If you get 10 more hits over those 100 at-bats, you've all of a sudden raised your batting average from 300 batting average to a 400 batting average, and we haven't said one word to you about your hitting fundamentals. Nobody's swing here is perfect. Everybody's got swing mechanics that they need to improve on. You always will, right? But you're going to set yourself up for a higher rate of success if you understand your approach and what your success rate, what your successful zones are, and what your failure zones are. Okay? Whether you're right-handed or left-handed, the inside corner is going to be your zone 1, and the outside corner is going to be your zone 6. Again, the idea is to work on the idea of hitting the ball harder, and we're going to do that if we understand our zones. Okay? Ultimately, we want to split the plate up into 3 locations: inside, middle, and outside. Okay? We're going to talk about the outline of this and talk about which ones we're going to cut based off of different situations. But ultimately, we're not going to go up there thinking about 6 spots. We're going to try to think about 3. Okay? Here's the goals of the zone hitting approach. Right? Maximize early count slugging percentage. Again, not batting average, slugging percentage. Meaning, if we're offering and swinging at a ball early in the count, we're swinging with intent, and our intent is to drive that ball, hit it hard. Right? We're talking about just situations right now, nobody on, nobody out, no specific situations where something else is called for. Right? But if we're offering up early in the count, we're trying to hit a ball. We should be under the assumption that we are hitting a ball that we can drive. Right? If we're swinging at balls that we can't drive early in the count, doing the pitcher a big favor, right? And doing your team a big disservice, right? So we're trying to maximize slugging percentage. Focusing in on a smaller area to increase the ability to drive the ball. As I said, if the plate is smaller, you're going to have a much better chance of being successful. We're also trying to drive up pitch count for the opposing team. If it's an 0-0 count and you can't hit the outside corner, and you swing at an outside corner fastball and round out your first pitch, impossible for you to drive up the pitch count, right? But if you take that pitch, right, and it's an 0-1 count, and then he throws a curveball out of the zone, and now it's 1-1, and then he throws a fastball off the inside corner, and now it's 2-1, right? We're working our way into hitters counts, and we're driving up the pitch count because we're not getting it too early and giving him and helping him interact. We're eliminating soft contact from the first 2 pitches of an at-bat. Stop getting yourself out by swinging at a pitcher's strike early on. Right? We're providing a plan for you when you step into the box instead of just going in blind. That's a big key piece. Not just going up there hoping to get a hit, right? But having a plan. And as pitchers get better, hitters must develop a plan for sustainable success. If you're just going up there trying to hit at all 17 inches of plate, you're not going to have sustainable success throughout your career. Okay? And number 5, maximize late count on base percentage. Meaning that if you understand all 6 zones, recognize them, you have a better understanding of pitch location, plate awareness, and you're probably not going to swing at pitches out of the zone as often. So we're going to find ways on base, late in the count by getting hit by a pitch or getting walked and putting balls in play. So as I said in the pitching presentation, I was going to show you the same slide as far as our counts, but from a hitter's perspective, right? Again, you do not need to memorize the on-base plus slugging percentages, okay, the OPS. What I do want you to just recognize here are the differences in the on-base plus slugging just based off our hitters counts, our bridge counts, and our 2-strike counts. I don't have highlighted in here our bridge counts. We'll talk about those in a second. right? But look at all the counts that are in green. Those are counts that are going to be pretty beneficial for you as a hitter, right? Now look at the counts that are in red, and look at the OPS in the red counts in comparison to the counts in the green. For example, let's look at the OPS in the third column, third pitch of the at-bat. OPS on a 2-0 count versus the OPS on an 0-2 count, right? And the OPS of the 2-0 count in comparison to all counts with two strikes. The best defense for a 2-strike count is to avoid one. So early count contact, right, and knowing your zones and driving the ball hard is going to help us be more successful, okay? What I also want you to notice here, and this is a big key piece, an 0-0 count we have to remember is a hitter's count, right? If you are swinging in an 0-0 count, it better be a pitch that you like, it better be swinging with intent, right? And there's no excuse for weak contact in an 0-0 count unless we just get beat, right? Unless our swing is just off, right? If you're swinging at a pitch that is not a successful, high-rated success pitch for you on an 0-0 count, you do not have a good understanding of your zone hitting approach. And here's what's the most important thing to remember. We can be very selectively aggressive on an 0-0 count. I don't like it when our guys on our 15U signature team take an 0-0 count fastball in the inner half, right? Because I would like to think that the vast majority of them can drive that pitch, right? But even if they do, here's the thing that you can remember, right? You go from an 0-0 count to a 1-0 count, and an 0-1 count, our OPS does not change that much. Even in an 0-1 count, your OPS does not drop that much from an 0-0 count, right? So it's very important to know and understand that you do not need to be expanding extremely early in the count. You have other opportunities, right? So the 0-1 count, the 1-0 count, and the 0-0 count are very important to understand that we don't need to be chasing early in any of those, right? Getting weak contact in any of those counts, even 0-1, seemingly being behind in the count, is not a good thing. Find pitches that you like and try to drive them and avoid pitches that you don't like, okay? Again, seeing the difference as well in our 2-strike counts versus all the other ones, very important to know and understand, okay? All right, as I'm sure you guys saw in the Kahoot, these counts will all be on your, okay? You need to know the difference between a hitter's count, a bridge count, and a 2-strike count. I'll define bridge count here in a second because I'm assuming this is new to most of you. Hitter's counts are all the obvious ones. Again, 3-0, 3-1, 1-0, 2-0, 0-0, and 2-1. These are all counts that are heavily in your favor. We should be swinging for damage unless the situation that calls for something else, and we are trying to drive the baseball. You should only be doing that in areas that you find success, as opposed to swinging at areas where you don't find success. If you don't drive the ball on a regular basis in the inside corner, you should not be swinging at it in a 1-0 count, okay? Because you're not going to be setting yourself up for success, okay? Let's talk about 2-strike counts before we get to a bridge count. 2-strike count is obviously any count that has 2 strikes. As a program standard, in case you weren't here, we have a program standard around here that anytime you are in a 2-strike count, you pound your chest, okay? And what you do is you step out of the box whenever you get 2 strikes, you turn to your teammates in the dugout, you look at them, and you pound your chest. That's by 2 things. One, you pound your chest to let them know, like, hey, I'm going to dig down deep, and I'm not going to go down without a fight, meaning I am not going to let this pitcher get the best of me, and I'm not going to take a call 3rd strike, okay? I'm also going to adjust my mentality. We have 2 strikes here. We need to have a hitting approach of the idea of never early, okay? Never, ever early. 1-2 count, 0-2 count, 2-2 count, something like that. We do not want to be swinging over the top of off-speed pitches in a count where we are normally expecting an off-speed pitch, okay? You never want to be early on a changeup, and it's very likely that a changeup or curveball coming. So if you swing out in front, you swing over the top of a curveball or a changeup with 2 strikes, to me that tells me you're not changing your mindset to never early. You're not owning the I'm not going to go down without a fight situation. Okay? So we not only pound the chest to say I'm going to dig down deep, we also look at our teammates and let them know, hey, this strike is no longer for me, it's for you. The only time a 2-strike swing is for you is if you are batting with 2 outs, nobody on, right? And you're up to bat, you got 2 strikes. I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're the smallest dude in here or the biggest dude in here. Your goal is, hey, try to change the score. Swing with damage. Swing for damage. Other than that, you're going to try to do something better for the team by moving a runner over, putting the ball in play, because the only chance to be able to get on base is by not striking out, right? And putting the ball in play or taking the pitch okay? So we're gonna dig down deep and work for our teammates. Teammates, very important that when a guy at the plate turns and pounds his chest and looks at you, that you are in this battle with him. I can't stand when I come watch games, right? And I see a guy owning that BAM philosophy, that BAM standard, step out of the box, turn and pound his chest to his teammates in the dugout, and 1, 2, or even nobody in the dugout is pounding their chest back. That guy's in it by himself now. Nobody's supporting him in that moment, right? I love when we do have a 15 pitch at bat, and a guy has fouled off 5 out of the last 6 pitches, right? Every single time he steps out and pounds the chest, we should be pounding our chest even bigger, even louder, right? Owning that battle and trying to win that. Being more successful with 2 strikes to the other team is going to set us up for a lot more wins, right? And driving the other team's pitch count further up. We're going to be in a much better way for success. So own that. Own that process. It's a big deal. That's not from us. Like, we didn't come up with that. We got that from Mississippi State. People take that stuff seriously. Watch college baseball this summer and see how many teams on TV have either a pound the chest situation or something else that they do as a physical motion to signify to the team that they know that they're in a different situation. But it's also not just a physical motion, it's a changing mentality. It's not for you, it's for the team, and you're never hurt. Okay? Bridge counts. Follow along with me here. We call these 2 counts, a 1-1 count and an 0-1 count, a bridge count for a reason. Okay? Mainly meaning that if you're in a 1-1 count or you're in an 0-1 count, the next pitch of the at-bat oftentimes bridges the gap between success and failure. Meaning, the next pitch of the at-bat, the result of it, is normally going to give you a good indication of what's going to happen the rest of the at-bat. Meaning that if you're in a 1-1 count, the difference in our OPS from a 2-1 count, whether it's that 1-1 count's a strike, or that 1-1 count is a ball, the 2-1 count OPS and a 1-2 count OPS, drastic difference. You get ahead 2-1, you are going to be very successful the lion's share of the time. You get to a 1-2 count, you're going to fail the lion's share of the time. So bridge counts are very important to us. Again, it bridges the gap between success and failure. It lets us know what the theme of the at-bat most likely is going to be. Okay, again, it's not going to follow those themes every single time, but we need to be very focused in these situations. In hitters counts, we cut 2 zones. We drive 3, right? There's 2 zones we're not cutting. In 2-strike counts, we're not cutting any zones. We're actually adding zones to the inside and outside portion of the plate. We're not only swinging at 17 inches of the plate, we're going to probably swing at 20 or 21, right? And expanding our zones to do what we're doing. In a bridge count, we only cut 1 zone. So if you're a guy like me that was miserable at hitting the outside pitch, in a 2-0 count, I would cut zones 5 and 6, and I would only focus 1 through 4. But in the bridge count, we don't cut 2 zones, we cut 1. So I'm only cutting zone 6, right? And I'm swinging at anything zone 5. Hitters counts, we cut 2. 2 strikes, we cut 0. We add 2. In bridge counts, we cut 1. Win the bridge. It's a common theme, common phrase you're going to hear from a lot of our coaches. Win this bridge, right? Because if you win the bridge count, we're going to be set up for a lot of success as opposed to a lot of failure. Okay? Now, in order to execute this and hit the ball well, I talked to a lot of you guys about this over the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to talk to everybody in here about it so we're all on the same page. In order to hit the ball well, it's obvious that you guys need to have good timing, right? But in order to be able to have good timing on a regular basis, we need to be able to define what that is. And I'm going to try to give you guys a good understanding of what that is here. Anytime you guys have hit a ball well, you've obviously barreled it, right? But we can sometimes barrel a ball by being too early and by being too late. If you're able to do that, to be very late on a ball and barrel it up, to be very early on a ball and barrel it up, right, we're going to be a pretty good hitter because our margin for error is good, right? But our overall goal needs to be to try to get good timing on a regular basis. The ways to do that: know your timing mechanism, whether you're a toe tap person, a leg lift, a heel rock, whatever it is, right? Know your timing mechanism and keep it consistent. But you got to know where perfect timing is for you. And everybody in here, perfect timing is defined as making contact with the ball either above the front foot or slightly inside of it. And what you'll see when you do that, if you can envision yourself, when you make contact there, is you're making what I call contact at connection. We're not making contact with the ball with our hands too far out in front of our body like this. And we're not making contact with our hands too deep on our body like this. Contact at connection looks like this. Elbows are still enclosed, right? And we're making contact over that front foot or slightly inside. This is Harrison Procore right here on the left, and Jocelyn Allo right here on the right, probably the greatest softball hitter of all time. You can see some examples. These are both home run pitches that they hit, right? They're making contact over their front foot. I tell you this because I want you guys to know that launch angle is obviously good, right? Having a great launch angle is going to be good for you long term. But you're not going to get good launch angle on a regular basis if you're always trying to hit the ball out in front of you, okay? Right? If you're always trying to hit the ball in front of you and trying to get extension and get power, you're going to be set up for a lot of failure, right? On the flip side, right, letting the ball travel is good. I hear that a lot from coaches, right? We don't want to let the ball travel all the time and hit the ball way deep in our stance, right? Perfect timing is defined as over the front foot, right? And we need to know what that looks like, right? We need to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, right? Meaning that we're not always going to have perfect timing. And when we don't get perfect timing, we need to know what our goals are, okay? So to determine perfect timing for you, what you're going to do is you're going to place 6 balls out in front of you. First thing you're going to do is you're going to get to in your stance. You're going to set up wherever you want on the plate. This is just an example, okay? You're going to set up wherever you normally set up on the plate. Don't change it from pitch to pitch. Keep it the same, okay? Whether you're in the front of the box or the back of the box or in the middle, wherever it is, find your normal stance. Then from there, you're going to do your load and your stride. And you're going to get to what we call the toe touch ready position or your slot position. Position that your front foot is in, right? Once you stride out to the pitcher and your front foot lands. From there, you're going to take a baseball and you're going to set it on the opposite portion of the plate, even with your front foot. Okay? And that's going to be a good indicator of the area that you need to be trying to make contact with the ball in order to be able to have perfect time. Again, it's for contact at your front foot of where your front foot lands after you stride at the pitcher. Okay? Right? Anything that is, even with that foot or slightly inside, perfect timing. Okay? We need to know that that's plan A. Obviously, we want to be on perfect timing as often as we can. But when that doesn't happen, we need to have a plan B and a plan C. Plan B needs to be letting the ball get deep on you. Okay? If your plan B, if you don't have perfect timing, is to be out in front of it and try to get extension, you are going to get beat up by a lot of guys with super high velo, right? Beat up by a lot of guys that have average velo, and you're going to get beat up by all kinds of off speed. Right? Because if you're early on fastballs, you're going to get jammed, right? If you're trying to be early on fastballs, right? And if you are early on off-speed pitches, you're going to probably end up getting a lot of swing and miss. We don't want to do that, right? If we want to have the highest rate of success, we need to be able to hit the ball as deep in our stance as hard as we can, right? If I see a guy that steps up to the plate and we throw a fastball on the inside portion of the plate, and he hits a line drive screaming right at the first base dugout, he's a little bit late, but I'm a little bit nervous. Because this guy has the ability to hit the ball hard deep in his stance. Meaning we're not going to beat him with any velo, right? And he also probably has the plate discipline to allow off-speed pitches to get there, right? The best hitters in the world can hit the ball hard, deep in their stance. And that's what we're all working for. We're all working on the idea of get our barrel in the zone as early as we can and keep it in the zone as long as we can. To be able to try to make hard contact on all 6 of those balls. Right? If you want to practice this, set that ball up near your front foot and then line up 6 balls, 2 in front and 3 behind it. And as coaches are doing front toss to you, right, make contact with the ball and let the coach know where you think you made contact with the ball. You're going to find out just how good you are at letting the ball get deep in your stance and hitting the ball. Okay? Right? Your goal should not be to make your perfect more perfect. So don't practice with the tee set up down the middle with perfect timing all the time. Practice with the tee deep in your stance. Find the ability to be comfortable with hitting the ball deep in your stance so your margin for error is wide. You can hit balls deep in the stance back here hard and balls out here hard and all the way through. Your margin for error is going to be higher and you're going to be a better hitter overall. Right? It's really important for you all to know what perfect timing is for you and then also what your plan A, plan B, and plan C should be. Okay? So let's talk about our hitting approaches. Again, when we are in a hitter's count approach, we are going to be taking 2 zones and eliminating them, and only swinging at 4 of them. Okay? In our hitter's counts, we have 3 different types of cutting that we're going to do. You can either cut the outside 2 for a middle in approach, meaning you're going to cut zones 5 and 6. I would assume that's what the vast majority of you are. You can cut the corners by cutting the inside corner and the outside corner and swinging at the 4 balls in the middle. Or you can be a middle away guy by cutting the balls, zones 1 and 2, cutting the first 2 inside pitches. Okay? Here's when you're going to do that. If you're going to be if we're going to cut the corners, we're going to do that, A, if you're somebody that doesn't hit either corner well, but we're also going to use that as a team approach based on the type of pitcher that we have. Sometimes, everybody here is going to probably have, we're going to have varying hitting approaches for everybody that's most successful in you. But depending on what the pitcher is giving us that day, it might be a good idea for us as an entire team to switch to a specific approach, regardless of whether or not cut the corners is good for you. Sometimes it might be better for you if you switch to that based on what the pitcher is giving us. We're going to use a cut the corners approach on any pitcher hard throwing pitchers who are struggling to find the zone. If you ever face a guy that has a lot of velo but is super wild, right? Most of the time, that pitching coach is just telling them, like, hey, give it over the plate because when you throw gas, guys are late on you, and it's hard for them to make contact. And when those guys finally do throw strikes, they're not normally picking the corners. They're normally throwing it right down the middle. When they make mistakes, they throw it right down the middle. So when we see those guys, when you guys face those guys in your travel seasons in your high school, those guys are effectively wild. They throw hard, and when they throw strikes right down the middle, cut the corners is your approach when you're in hitters counts. Okay? Now, middle away. Those are against soft throwers or pitchers who primarily work the outer half of the zone. Right? We are going to give up the inside, but get on top of the plate to cover the outside zones with power. If you're somebody that can't hit the inside portion of the plate, I urge you to crowd the plate and turn outside down the middle. Make it harder for that pitcher to throw it into that inside portion of the plate, and make it to where the outside portion of the plate is now down the middle for you, and even a ball off the plate, you can still hit hard. Okay? And that's the types of pitchers that we're going to use that against, guys that are owning that outside portion of the plate. Okay? For guys that are middle in, okay? Middle in, we're going to use this against pitchers who are trying to establish the inside part of the plate and are not utilizing the outer half of the plate. Very rare are we all just going to abandon the outside corner. Most pitchers are taught to pitch you soft and away because that's most hitters' weaknesses. Right? But occasionally we're going to find a guy that can't hit that outside corner. Occasionally we're going to find the one weird umpire that doesn't like to call it 2 balls off the plate. But when we get to that position, we need to know what our hitting approach should be. We're going to cut zones 5 and 6, and we're going to attack zones 1 through 4. Okay. Here's our focus, our goals, our secondary goals, and our action plan. 4 hitters count. Your goal, primary goal, hit the ball hard. There's no excuse for poor contact in a hitter's count. Memorize the hitter's counts and understand that for you, no excuse for weak contact. Here's what I mean by that, right? No matter the result, your swing should be quality with force. Right? Guys that I coach on a regular basis on our team know that I do not want to see check swings on 0-0 counts or check swings on 2-0 counts. If you have a check swing, you're not swinging with an offensive mindset, right? You're more playing defense, right? I would rather you on a 2-0 count, right, swing and miss, right, because you're trying to swing for damage, right, and check swing and somehow accidentally make weak contact. Because you swing and miss at a 2-0 count, it's 2-1, we're still in a hitter's count. If you check swing and make weak contact and don't swing with quality force on a hitter's count, you're helping the pitcher out and you're probably going to end up getting weak contact. Okay? Secondary goal, don't help him out. Changing the count back to the pitcher's favor can alter it back. Don't expand your zones based on the approach you are using. Action plan, know your zones. Eliminate the 2 zones and ambush balls in the zones that you're focused on. Here's the key piece in doing that well. It is scientifically proven that you can't think of 2 things at once. If I tell you not to think about elephants, you're going to think about elephants, right? So in its simplest form, if you don't hit zones 5 and 6 well, don't step up to the plate thinking about those. Don't be thinking, I'm going to eliminate these zones. If you're thinking about those zones, you're probably going to swing at it. But if you're not thinking about them, you're only thinking about one thing at a time, meaning that you're setting your vision and creating a window. And you've all heard a coach say, hey, pick out a spot and drive it. Set your window over the spots that you like the most. And if a ball crosses that window, again, regardless of whether it's a fastball or an off-speed pitch, if a ball crosses that window, try to do damage on it. Okay? Even if it is a fastball or an off-speed pitch, if we're focused on the idea of perfect timing or allowing it to get deep, we're probably going to hit that ball pretty hard. Okay? So do not think about two things at once. Only focus on what the successful zones are. Commit. Don't half check your swing early in counts. And if you go, put a good swing on. Okay? Don't change your swing to make contact. Selectively aggressive. If it's not in your zones, take the pitch and just make the pitcher work to get you out. Hitters counts again. 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-0, 3-1. Okay, here's a little bit of a visual of what that's going to look like. If we cut the corners, the portions where they say take, obviously we're not going to swing at, and the blank portion, we are going to hit at. Again, how easy would baseball be if the plate was only that big, right? So much easier for you as a hitter, so much harder for a pitcher. It makes it easier for the pitcher if we're trying to cover absolutely everything on every single count. Middle away, that's what we're going to take and what we're going to swing at. Versus middle in, that's what we're going to take and what we're going to swing at as well. We're shrinking your area that you have to cover to try to drive up your success rate and hit the ball hard. Okay? Here's going to be a visual example of that. Okay? As you can see in this visual example, some guys from our 2022 class, this right here is an example of Landon Clark, Division I player of Oakland University in Michigan. Right? He was a middle away guy, right? And he would always think about those 4 zones in the outer half. Okay? And he would cut those zones in the inner half. The first person that pops up in this video is going to be Charlie Hawk. He was a middle in guy. He would avoid the zones 5 and 6. And he would focus on hitting the inside portion. So a good drill for this. You work on this with your teammates. Set up 4 balls. Anytime a ball is thrown over those 4 balls, drive it. If a ball crosses in zones 5 or 6, take it. Limit your zones, and on fastball counts, never late. Right? If you're expecting a fastball, even if he's throwing 99 miles an hour, you know what perfect timing looks like. Don't be late on a fastball count. Cut the corners. Ball over zone 1 or zone 6, we're going to take. That right there is an example of Sam expanding his zones on a cut the corners, and that ball would have crossed over zone 6, and you saw the roll over ground ball to the left side. Right? But if he limits his zones and only swings at balls over 2 through 5, he gets a lot more drive, a lot more barrel contact, and hits balls harder. Again, landing here with the middle away, driving pitches that are over, you can see he's crowding the plate a little bit. Anything that's even on the outside corner, he has the ability to drive. But he's going to work on anything on zones 1 and 2. He will hopefully take those, like that, and then wait for a pitch that he likes, and then drive it, okay? As you see, just an example of the benefits of that and just how much the plate can shrink if we're focused on those. It's going to take practice. You need to figure out what you do well and what you don't do well, right? Maximize those and try to work on plate recognition, okay? Right? So, talking about the bridge counts, okay? As I said, define bridge, and obviously bridges the gap between success and failure. Your primary goal is to win that bridge. Hit a mistake if it's thrown, hit a mistake hard if they make a mistake. And take a ball and work it back in your favor. Okay? Secondary goal, live to fight another pitch. Still no reason to get yourself out by expanding. Okay? We're not at 2 strikes yet. And increase the pitch count by taking a pitcher's strike. Right? If you cut zone 6, right, and in a bridge count, don't do what Sam did in that video and swing at zone 6 and roll over the ground ball. Take that pitch, because guess what? He's got to do it again. Has to, right? And maybe he won't. Maybe he does end up making a mistake and throwing it over the heart of your zone when he has 2 strikes on it. Action plan, know your zones. Eliminate one zone and be confident handling the other 5. Trust yourself. Don't adjust your bridge count approach because of a fear of hitting with 2 strikes. Okay? Don't get yourself out. And don't miss a mistake. A hard hit ball is a major goal, but overswinging can decrease your batting average by counting over 100 points by swinging through a meaty fastball. You always hear me say this if you ever work with hitting. If you do something with your hitting with the ball well, I always say, don't add anything and don't take anything away. Right? You didn't hit that last pitch well because you tried to kill it. You added something to it. Right? And you're not going to continue to hit the ball well if you take portions of your swing away. Okay? Understand what you're doing well and maximize it. Again, bridge counts 0-1 and 1-1. Remember that. It's going to be on your test. 2 strikes. Again, always pounding the chest. Primary goal, do something productive. Move a runner with an out. Get on base with a hit. And get a hit by a pitch or a base on balls. If you're a guy that is, it's a 1-2 count, and the guy throws a little hanging curveball that slips out of his hand, and you wear it, right? And you get a free base from that. Like, you are an absolute team guy, and we should be celebrating that as an organization as much as we would celebrate somebody getting a home run. Because the mind shift to a pitcher when they are ahead 1-2 and they accidentally let one slip and you wear it, that is a big mental hit to a pitcher. Be the guy that's brave enough to stand there. I'm not expecting you to wear anything in your face, right? But be a team guy, and when the ball's thrown at you, have the courage to wear it occasionally, okay? Secondary goal, increase the pitch count. Foul off a pitch that's close enough to swing at and take a called ball. Best way to do that. Hitters counts, mentality, never late. We're expecting fastball, don't be late on a fastball if we're expecting it, right? 2 strikes, off-speed pitch count, our mentality, never early, right? You throw that curveball, right, and you swing over the top of it because you're trying to get way out in front of it, right? You have not shifted your mentality. Again, pound on the chest, not just a physical action, but a change in mindset. And that's why we do that. Fastball counts, never late. 2 strike counts, never early. You'll hear us echo that a lot as coaches. Action plan, know your zones, eliminate 0 zones, and be ready to fight. Shorten up, eliminate unnecessary variables in your swing, like a preload, a choke up, shorten up. I do also want to say, if choking up, taking your stride out, widening your stance, if that makes you a worse hitter, recognize that. We've watched successful baseball players in college and the pros. Not all those guys are shortening up their swing and choking up, right? Do what makes you more successful and makes you more of a contact hitter with 2 strikes. But if changing your swing and changing your motion makes you worse, that's okay. You don't have to shorten up and choke up. Do what's most successful for you. Get on the plate and wear it. Crowd the plate and choke up. Make a pitcher execute a pitch with you uncomfortably close to it. 2 strike counts, 0-2, 1-2, 2-2, and 3-2. Again, here's our focuses on 2 strike counts, right? Strike 1 and strike 2 are player strikes, they're for you. Strike 3 is a team strike, and 2 strike approach will pound our chest. Okay? Last thing I do want to talk about here is our alpha at bats. Okay, I want to echo this again. We talked about it last week at our positionals, but in case you don't know what this is, make sure you're paying attention. If you do know what this is, understand this is a core principle to our success, right? For NISA specifically and our 15U coaching staff, you're somebody that doesn't know alpha at bats and doesn't follow through with the rules of alpha at bats, you're going to find yourself on the bench quite a bit, right? Alpha at bats are situations in game that we as a program have realized that if we execute these situations and are more successful in them than the other team on a regular basis, we are going to be more successful over time and find more wins because we're going to score more runs. We have 3 alpha at-bat situations. Coaches, this right here, this picture is in the coach's classroom. I encourage you to print these off, laminate them, and put them and give every single one of your players one of these and have them put them in your back pocket. Our guys know if you don't have them in your back pocket and you come up to bat, pinch hit immediately because you're not going to be prepared to hit. Even if you have these memorized, it's solving a simple problem of having these physically on hand. Okay? Here's our 3 alpha at-bat situations. Leading off an inning, not just leading off a game, but every inning thereafter, there's always going to be a leadoff hitter. That's an alpha at-bat situation. Another one is runner on third, less than 2 outs, okay? And RBI situation there. And the last one is a runner on second with 2 outs. Here's the rules for each one of these. If you lead off an inning, your rule is you're not allowed to take strike 3. If you take strike 3, we have 0 chance of getting on base. Go back to every win you've ever had in your career and check the stats. Most likely, when your leadoff runner got on, you guys were successful, right? If your leadoff hitter goes, we go. That's the main idea. We do not have an opportunity for that if you take strike 3, right? So never doing that. Owning the concept of pounding our chest and putting the ball in play, right? We're not going to get on base if we don't get walked and we don't put the ball in play or get hit by a pitch. Right? When we put the ball in play, it's got a chance of being a hit or a chance of the fielders making an error. Put pressure on the defense. Make sure we're not taking strike 3. Only. We need to be successful in getting on base as a leadoff hitter 50% of the time. Not individually, but as a group. We need to try to get our leadoff hitter on 50% of the time. This is going to help us do that. Runner on third, less than 2 outs. Huge RBI situation. The goal is to obviously score the run. Here's your rule. Don't take strike one. Coaches, if you're in here, right, I beg you and I encourage you, if there's a runner on third base, with less than 2 outs, and it comes to a 3-0 count, please do not give the take sign. Don't. Right? I get it that the guy has thrown 3 balls in a row. Maybe he's thrown 8 balls in a row based off of the last 2 hitters. Right? But every person in here, right, if you get to a 3-0 count, it's wild. We've never been able to honestly figure it out. Why are guys so good at throwing strikes at 3-0 counts? Probably because the vast majority of the time they know it's not getting swung at. They take something off, they make a physical adjustment, and they groove it in. Right? That first strike with a runner on third base with less than 2 outs is oftentimes going to be the best pitch for these guys to be able to get that run in. Again, we don't need a base hit, right? We don't need a home run or a line drive necessarily to get that run in. Vast majority of the time, you get the ball in play unless it's to the pitcher or to the corner infielders that they're playing in. We're going to have a pretty good chance of getting that run in, right? A ground ball to the shortstop on a 3-0 count for the runner on third base, less than 2 outs, unless that guy's playing in, is going to score that run, and that's a success. Okay, so I beg you, 3-0 counts, don't give that take sign. We don't do it. I don't do that to our worst hitter, right? They should have the discipline to understand their hitters counts, right? Understand their zones, and if they practice their zone hitting approach, right? They're at least going to be somewhat more successful being there. Even if they swing and miss, they're still in good shape. Right? The worst thing that happens is they pop up. But they're going to have a higher success of failure the more strikes that they get into the at-bat. So, runner on third, with less than 2 out, don't take strike one. Right? Our success rate should be 75% in getting that run in. Right? And we're going to have a much better chance of that happening if we're ready to hit early in the count or if we have 0 strikes. Last one, runner on second with 2 outs. Okay? Your rule, our goal is obviously to score the run. Your rule is to don't take strike 2. Okay? Don't take strike 2. Here's why. Okay? Batting averages, as you guys saw, anytime that we get to two strikes, drastically decreases. Right? Drastically decreases. It's going to decrease even more if the pressure is on. There's 2 outs, you have 2 strikes, and there's runners in scoring position. That moment's going to be much more difficult. Right? And since statistically our batting average drops with 2 strikes, and we're going to probably need a base hit to get this guy in, we need to be ready to hit before we get there. I said it before, the best defense against a 2-strike count is to avoid it. So hitters, we've got to be ready to hit. Right? So we are not allowed with runners on second base. I even expand this to runners on second base or runner on third base with 2 outs. Our guys are not allowed to take strike 2. Be ready to hit, right? Yes, occasionally you're going to get absolutely screwed by the umpire who's going to call a ball way out of the zone, right? Hitters, it's important for you to be honest with your coaches and let them know, like, hey, I know I took that strike when I wasn't supposed to. Coach, I promise you that thing was outside of the zone. Here's the thing, though. We all got Game Changer now. We all have cameras, and we're all probably watching that. Be introspective about it. If you took a strike when it was a strike, own it in that moment, right? Be introspective. How am I insufficient? How can I rectify it, right? But the vast majority of the time, that's not going to happen. If we're ready to hit in these moments, and we put the ball in play, we're going to be more successful than the other team, and it's going to drive up our win total. You have to own those in order to be a successful player. Okay? So, again, left some time here for some questions. All right? And we're going to end up having everybody come in here in about 5 minutes for a question and answer situation and some social media stuff. But outside of any of that stuff, anybody have any questions about this presentation? Any questions about bridge counts, about bat-bats, anything like that? Cool. If you do have questions up here, sit and chill for a minute. We're going to see where the other rooms are at. You guys have done a great job. I have one other piece before you guys start talking. Okay? When I got here, they unlocked the bathrooms. The bathrooms were spotless. I went in there right before I came back in here, and it was trashed. Okay? Do not leave this auditorium. Don't leave those bathrooms a mess, and don't leave out there a mess. Okay? We are blessed to be able to use this. We are not being charged to be able to use this. I do not want that to end. You guys leave this place trashed, and we're going to end up having a huge problem on our hands. So we'll be walking around once everybody leaves to make sure we don't leave it a mess. If it is left a mess, everybody's going to get punished. That's the first mistake. You see trash, it's not yours. Pick it up.
Is this recording for 2 hours?